Hello, and welcome to Getting the Installer Disk, the ISO for Windows 10 from Microsoft. There are many reasons we might need to do that. One of the reasons, of course, the one we're getting it for is because we need to make a virtual machine out of Windows in VirtualBox. And in order to do that, we need that ISO so that we can have an installer. Not a particular shock, huh? So let's go do it. It's pretty easy. It shouldn't take too long, but there's enough specific stuff to this type of download that I think it's better to make it a separate video. The other reason why is because sometimes people will have another way to get an ISO, like maybe they got it from corporate if they're working for a company, or maybe they already have an ISO. So they don't necessarily need to waste time in the installer video trying to figure out or seeing how to get this installer. So let's go get it. So to do so, we open up a browser. And once we have opened up our little browser here, all we have to do is type into Google or whatever your favorite search engine is. We'll just type in Windows 10 install disk. That way you're not specifying the exact name of the thing or whatever, and it should come up perfectly fine for what we're doing. There we go, right there. Verify, please, that does say Microsoft.com. If you have a search engine that doesn't do this, that's fine also. But make sure that when you click on that link, which I'm going to do now, so go ahead and click on that. Just verify that this is Microsoft.com up here, not some other place. Because every once in a while, bad actors will actually get a fake website, clone this, and then you'll go and download this thing and it ends up being malware or something. So as long as we verify that this is Microsoft.com, if you really want to get picky about it, you can click the little lock and it'll show that you have a secure connection. Click on this to disclose and then it'll show verified by Microsoft. Chrome does this as well. There are most browsers, if not all the major ones that you're going to run into on a desktop, are going to have a pretty easy way to verify this. That actually is something I am probably going to end up doing a video for at some point. Like I said, I do teach in some other videos. You'll know that I maybe teach security. So yeah. All right. So we're at Microsoft.com. We don't want to update. What we want is the ISO to install Windows, right? So we need to download this thing called a media creation tool, okay? So we click on download tool now. That'll open up the save dialog in Firefox. Don't worry about the number at the end. That's irrelevant for our purposes. This is the thing you want. Go ahead and click save file. And of course, that will download it to whatever your default downloads directory is. I'm going to go ahead and close the browser now. Now I'll go down here and I'll open up my File Explorer. I'm just going to use the taskbar to do this. So if we open up File Explorer and we go to Downloads, we should see Media Creation Tool 2004.exe, because that is what we just downloaded. If you don't see .exe at the end of that, I will give you a quick piece of advice. If you don't see exe and you are in your File Explorer window here, if you want to follow along, click on View. And right here under View, there's a checkbox. And in Windows by default, they don't check this. And this will show the file name extensions. That's why I see exe here, and sometimes my students and other people won't. I recommend to someone that teaches security that you always check this checkbox, okay? It's more insecure to not do that. Basically, someone could have something that says it's a JPEG or a PNG or picture, and instead it's actually not. It's JPEG.exe, but to you it looks like it's .jpeg. That's all you see, and they'll have like some kind of icon that makes it look like it's a picture. That could be bad. So I always, if I get a chance to bring this up, View, and then check the checkbox for file name extensions. It's a pretty decent idea. I highly recommend it. Okay. Here's our little installer downloading tool. So go ahead and double click on that. It'll ask user account control because it needs to have admin permissions to do this. So it looks good. Verified publisher is Microsoft Corporation. Click yes. And again, we can close our File Explorer. It'll take a little bit while it gets this done. I'll compress this kind of stuff as we go along so you don't have to sit and wait and watch. Okay, so after a little bit, you'll get the license window. Who would have thought, right? You are supposed to read this. I am not going to read it to you, but technically you are supposed to read this. I'm just going to accept it. So go ahead and click accept. Okay, so after that little pause, now it's going to ask you, what's your mission here? What are you trying to get accomplished? One thing you can use this installer for is to upgrade the machine that you're on. I've done it a few times. Let's say you have a client or yourself where you have a machine that has Windows installed from an install disk that was a while back. And what you want to do is you want to either upgrade the older install or you want to upgrade Windows 10 to the newest patched version. And you have so many patches it would just take a long time to get the installer to do it. Or for whatever reason, you just don't have a reliable way to do it. So you can use this as an upgrade too. But that's not what we're here for, right? We're here to create some installation media. So we can make a USB installer, we can make a DVD, or what we're after, an ISO file. So let's go ahead and click on that. So create installation media is the option you want to pick. Go down here to next and click next. It will then ask you for your language, architecture, and edition. Now, normally you do not want to mess with this, okay? Just letting you know, it usually is going to identify what you've got fine. However, I actually need the Spanish version and the Japanese version of Windows as well. So that is an option. I can clear this checkbox here, right? Drop this down, and then I can actually pick Espanol from Mexico. And I can also pick the Japanese version as well if I want to. The Japanese version right there, Nihongo. Because I work in both Japan and Spain. Mexico, sorry. Don't tell anybody I said that. Mexico. Anyway, but I work in multiple places and I work in multiple languages. So you can absolutely pick other languages. So generally you don't want to unselect this. You want to leave it to the recommended options for this PC. But if I wanted to have a different language, I can just uncheck this and drop this box down here, and then I can actually pick a different language install of Windows. Now you don't need to do this if you just want to add a language into your English version and add a keyboard. Let me show you something just real fast. If I bring up my window and spacebar here, you can see that I've got English, Spanish, and Japanese keyboards installed on this machine. I also have the full language packs and all that. So you don't need to download the language for Windows unless you actually want your Windows to be in Spanish for Mexico, let's say, or in Chinese or Japanese. You can always add other languages, and Microsoft's really good about that. In fact, in some of my videos, I might actually do this, especially Spanish, since I'm going to be living there. So anyway, here you got English, Windows 10, 64-bit. That all looks exactly what we want. I'm going to go ahead and reselect that just to put it back the way it was. I'll click on Next. Now here, do you want to use a USB drive? I have done that. Get yourself a little USB flash drive, and what that'll do is that will take the media that you download and put it on that little flat USB drive. That way, if you need to do a fresh install on a piece of hardware, hint, hint, a laptop, a desktop, right? Your Surface, etc. Well, probably not your Surface, but if you want to do something on a piece of hardware, you can absolutely do it that way. In our case, though, what are we shooting for? We're shooting for a virtual machine. And virtual machines do not require a USB flash drive version of this. They need an ISO file. So ISO file, that's something that we probably should define. ISO space file. What is an ISO file? That is an ISO image. Basically, what an ISO file does is it takes what would be a DVD, Blu-ray, whatever the heck it is that you're using to save data on, not a video, but data on, and it makes an image of it in a file. So basically, when you mount or you use an ISO image, for all intent and purpose, you're actually mounting that optical format. See, look, it's an archive file that contains everything to be written to your optical disc, and it is sector by sector. It literally is the file system of an optical disc. So it's just like putting a disc in a disk drive, optical disk drive, right? And having it load. It just happens to be a file that's saved on your hard drive. Now, I keep a ton of ISO files on my machine because of all the different things that I have to install. That's one of the advantages of ISO files. You don't have to go grab a disc. Heck, I haven't had a DVD or Blu-ray player on my machine in ages because you just use ISO images for all of your stuff. So just FYI, that's all an ISO file is. It's just an identical copy, basically, of an optical disc. So we need an ISO file. And we can use this to burn it to a DVD, or in our case, we'll just save it in a folder. So click on ISO file and click next. It's going to ask you where you want to save it. In my case, I'm just going to save it to downloads. I already have a copy of this, so we don't need to wait for it to all download here. I'll just kind of compress that out again so we can get to the end of this. But I'm just going to go ahead and save it to downloads. Obviously, you may save it wherever you wish. All right, and we're done. So as you can see, the original purpose of this tool was to download this ISO so it could be burned to a DVD, because back when they originally made this tool, DVDs were still the normal way that we installed stuff to machines. But nowadays, there really isn't any need to burn it to an ISO or burn it to a DVD unless you really, really need to or want to. In our case, we're just going to go ahead and leave it on the hard drive. So we're done. That's all there is to it. Go ahead and click Finish. It does have to clean up a little bit, but it shouldn't take too long, and then poof, it'll be done. All right, so that's it. Again, if you enjoy the tutorials, I am trying to make this a business, eventually transitioning into this as my primary source of income. So like and share if you did enjoy it, please. I would appreciate it very much. And of course, my Patreon and Subscribe Store links will be down there below. If you like it and you want to encourage me to keep making some more videos, hey, I'll take a donation. You bet I will. I would really appreciate it. You know, and I don't ask a lot. I don't want a whole bunch of money for a donation. I know how times are, and I know how money can be. So, but if you want to toss me a couple bucks, I would appreciate it. All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next video, which will be the installation of Windows 10 into a virtual machine. Adios.